Today on our show, we have Michael Zuber. Michael is the author of One Rental at a Time, which is an awesome book. He basically just did what he stated. He acquired one rental at a time.
And guys, you're not going to want to miss this.
We have a lot of good information in here, and enjoy.
So hey, everybody, we're here with Michael Zuber. Very excited for any of you who are freaking out about your corporate job and not getting ahead. This is the podcast for you. It's going to be fun, huh, Danielle?
We're currently, we're on the road, and so we're trying to use a blurry background. So if either Ken or I dip out on the screen, that is why.
Sorry about that. It'll be her, not me. Obviously, we've seen inflation just killing folks. And now, more than ever, you must be looking back at, what's been an incredible career you've had. And say, boy, I really made the right choice, right?
I was always an employee, right? I think there are some people that are naturally gifted as entrepreneurs. I think others, maybe like yourself, Ken, are naturally investors. Most folks I run into are employees like me. I never had a vision of dozens or hundreds or anything. It was like, man, if I could just find a way to get to 4 over the next decade, my future self will thank me. So, that's kind of where the journey began.
How do we get through to the people that you don't have to lose everything, for a wake-up call? So what was it with you?
I think there's a couple of things that I've been able to tie together after 30 years of doing this. And that is, unfortunately, as crass as this sounds, recessions or down cycles or bear markets or whatever you want to call them are a natural part of the business process. I want people watching this to realize that I personally hope you live through 5 or 6 of them. That means you lived a long life, right? These bear markets, these recessions typically are a year or 2, and the upcycle is 10 to 12, right? They're just, the ratio is very different. The problem is, Ken, and you know this, right? The late, great Sam Zell proved this with the S&L crisis in the 80s, is when there is a recession, when stuff gets reset, when over leverage gets wrung from the system, if you're paying attention, that's when you make moves.
We look at recessions as good. I'm looking for disruption. I'm looking for bank-owned property. I'm looking for people that are afraid of the next 2 or 3 years, because if you can solve their problem, you can do very, very well financially. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I think you're underselling it, frankly. I think a guy in your position, let's just be real. You're going to be working with institutions and taking over properties and probably doing assumptions where you're probably not going to bring very much money to the deal. But because you're an operator, you have the balance sheet, you have the experience, you're going to be the answer for some pretty significant problems. Then there's guys like me who play in the residential space. You haven't looked at these deals in a long time. But the same problem evolves in residential, in fourplexes, in 10 units, in 20. So your opportunity is going to be gargantuan. But the opportunity for guys like me who has never done a deal over 20 units is the same, just with less zeros. You know what's really funny? It's without question coming to commercial. And I think this warrants a discussion. I don't know if you guys see this, but I have a very strong opinion that we committed the same mistakes in commercial the last 2 years that were committed in residential in 05, 06. We adjusted. That's the problem. We've repeated it with bigger numbers.
Can you explain that?
Absolutely. And I would love your input because I sometimes miss these. What happened in 05 vintage of residential properties? 51% of them were adjustable rate mortgages. Of all mortgages written in 2005, 51% were adjustable. They had 2-year adjustment periods. So 06, 07, they were fine, but then they adjust, people start defaulting, bad stuff happens. The financial engineering that has occurred in commercial because cap rates were so low and rates were so low, people had to go to bridge debt, 2 years IO. And now rates are 500 basis points higher and cap rates are higher and rents are lower and taxes are up. And the financial engineering adjustable rate mortgage is the same thing, just different numbers. That's where I start. That is so similar, it's scary.
So I'd like to chat about, a lot of people are banking on cutting rates. My entire career was built on 6 or 7%. I think the people that are freaking out are the ones that are new to the game. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I actually have a saying, be careful what you wish for. I think there's a lot of people that are banking on lower rates. I think this is residential. That's really where I focus. The commercial, definitely your bailiwick. But I think a lot of home buyers now think, Ken and Daniil, that 7 is bad, 6 is good. So what does that really mean? That means a lot of marginal demand is sitting on the sidelines. And as every day, every week, every month that passes by, it's like pressure in the pipe. And if we ever get to a point where, it's 6 and 3/4, 6.5, and that pressure pops, demand pops, but supply hasn't. Simple demand, supply 101, right? It's prices are going to go up. So be careful what you wish for. I hope the Fed doesn't cut. First off, no more rate increases. We're done.
Yeah.
And I hope they don't cut in 24. I hope they can hold them for roughly 18 months at least. Question for Daniil, given that we play in very similar areas. What do you tell someone that says, hey, Daniil, I like what you're doing, blah, 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 but I'm going to wait for rates to fall? There's a lot of people, I think, in that camp. When you get that question or comment, what do you say? What do you feel? What do you think?
I just think that people need, I think people sit on the sidelines a lot. And even if prices were to start to go down, they would still wait on the sidelines because they always want to hit it at the bottom and sell at the very top. And, they think they can just plan it all out, right?
Timing the market. Yes.
There's time in the market. They're going to be perfect. They're just going to wait till somebody says this is the
Ring a bell.
Very bottom. And now you can, invest. So I just tell people, I hear a lot, like there's no deals out there. You can't find a deal. And it is harder to find a deal now than it was a few years ago, for sure. But there's still deals out there. So I tell people, you need to look every day. I mean, for me to find this house, I had been looking for almost a year, probably every day, because I knew if I was going to find a good deal, I had to make the offer the same exact day that it came out. And I knew the market and I understood the market. And you need to understand all that stuff to even know what a good deal looks like and work backwards and make sure it cash flows or, all of those things, right? And even when, I made the deal, we weren't even in town. I had to send my stepson and my realtor together to check out the house. I have to see it that day. We're not here. So I always just tell people, real estate is not easy, right? It's not like you can just look on the MLS and you just find a deal if you just look every few days or when you're in your free time. Like you have to look like every day, have alerts set, go see the house that day, or if you're not in town, send somebody to go see it. You really have a great realtor. You have to do all of these things. So, if you're just going to wait till rates go down, then you're going to be paying higher prices. It's almost worse because then you're going to be at the lowest low rate with a higher price. You can find something now at a high price. Rates are going to go down. It just might be a few years.
So, Michael, what is the best way people can reach you? This has been a fantastic interview. Thank you.
Well, I thank you for the opportunity, Ken. Again, you've helped me out. Daniil, you're helping all the residential folks out there over the years. I have a YouTube channel called One Rental at a Time, and you can find a book on Amazon by the same name and also on Audible.